Frankie Russo, straight out of Brooklyn. You better believe it. You better believe it. Frankie Russo show. That's right. This is the Frankie Russo show. There's the Frankie Russo logo up at 77 WABC. And then we got the Russo disclaimer. I don't sit on congressional oversight committees. I sit on the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor am I a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, National Security Council. I don't have access to classified documents, court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-researched, well-sourced open source articles. We attempt to, in all likelihood, in all probability, reach statistical significance. We try to reach responsible conclusions. We're close. FrankieRusso.media. I'm about to update my latest blog tomorrow and the next day on Hezbollah. FrankieRusso.media, AmericasTeam.today. Okay, so this is the Russo disclaimer. All right, so before I kick it into the data, I just want to say today's a crazy day, right? First, I want to address Comey. We know we got James Clapper and a former CIA director claiming that there is no collusion between the Trump team, the Trump campaign team, and Russia. Okay, so Comey has a track record of doing what he does. If we remember correctly, during the summer of 2016 with Hillary Clinton, he literally indicted her. The intro, this long introduction of all the data that they had against her, and then at the end he says he's not going to recommend this investigation go to a grand jury. Pretty much did what he did over there for Hillary Clinton. And once again, he's doing it again, right? He has a track record. And quite frankly, I don't point myself off as a legal scholar, and I'm not, right? But it's my understanding based on what he said was that when he ruled not to, one of the things that I recall him saying when he ruled not to recommend this investigation to go to a grand jury, the Hillary Clinton investigation, right? He claimed he brought in this theory of intent in the espionage statute. Now, according to Andrew McCarthy, the blind sheep prosecutor, James Comey of the FBI rewrote the statute. According to Andrew McCarthy, you don't need intent. Intent isn't part of what he's saying is intent is not part of the standard to be reached within this espionage statute. So, in a nutshell, according to the blind sheep's prosecutor, James Comey rewrote the statute. So that's a little bit of the track record that we have with this James Comey character, right? Now, to go into now the other hearing, which I tell you, I watched Neil Gorsuch, his opening statement. I'm telling you, man, I was just proud to have voted for Donald Trump just on that pick. That he made amazing. This is Neil Gorsuch. First time I've ever heard of him. I watched most of his opening statement. And when I saw it and when he ended it, I said to myself, I'm so happy that I voted for Donald Trump. And this is one of the major decisions, like when he picked Vice President Michael Pence, and now he picked Neil Gorsuch for Supreme Court, an amazing pick. Now, the Democrats, this guy, it would be unconscionable. This Neil Gorsuch is an amazing, he'll make an amazing Supreme Court justice. So there it is. That's my take on all that stuff. It's a crazy day. So I just want to get into the data because to me, it's funny, and I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you again. Libya, right? Russia's new frontier. I'm not going to touch on this today. I'm just showing you headlines because I'm not going to go into the minutia right now of this. But Russia claiming that conceivably Libya may be Russia's new frontier. Now I'm starting to understand maybe that's the reason why the Obama-Clinton crime family could conceivably this might be true. The ties between Russia and the Taliban, and as we know, there's ties between Russia and Iran and Syria, Iran and the Afghan Taliban, and now Russia is facilitating more of an increased deepening ties between Russia and the Taliban. So interesting. So we'll see. We'll see if this means anything, right? And then we got this other thing we talk about with Hezbollah and Hamas, that Russia is calling Hezbollah and Hamas basically freedom fighters. And we know they're terrorists. This is a headline from Breitbart News. Okay? So that's what I'm starting with. These are just headlines, okay? We're gonna get into that and as we move forward. Now, I just want to say we're gonna look at two things now, because I'm gonna give you two excerpts from the Shadow Commander, General Soleimani, the New Yorker magazine article, which by Dexter Filkins, not a friend of Donald Trump. They hate Trump, okay? So this is not fake news. They hate Trump, okay? Now, there are two things. Now, one was the gentleman that ran, the politician that ran against Maliki for prime minister. In this article by Dexter Filkins, he was quoted as saying that Iraq conceivably is an Iranian colony. Now, follow me. We've already substantiated we're getting close to statistical significance, that not only is Syria fronting for Iran, but Iran is giving Syria 3 to 15, not militarily, with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, with the Iranian Quds Force, with Soleimani and Hezbollah. But we're also claiming that they're giving 3 to 15 billion. Iran annually is giving 3 to 15 billion to Syria, the Assad regime, and that's evidenced by the Washington Free Beacon Adam Credo article. And the source in there is the Congressional Research Service. That's a nonpartisan group. So that is like almost, it's above an open source article, and it might be even a peer-reviewed journal article. So that's that. And then plus in this article, the Commander article by Dexter Filkins, he claims that the Islamic Republic of Iran loaned Syria $7 billion to save their economy. So maybe, we're going to get more data around that. So is Syria an Iranian colony? And then that's the question we're posing. And then what we're saying now is, if Syria is an Iranian colony, what are we doing over there, right? I don't know. We're trying to figure it out, because as we know, money was sent there. I can't substantiate the amount of money, but I know a lot of money went there. We know weapons went there. We know human assets went there. They were put together. We know maybe at time it's been reported 32 Syrian rebels, 10, 15, and it was reported by either the Washington Post, New York Times, one of those publications, that the Syrian rebels actually gave their weapons to ISIS. So that's one scenario. And then the other scenario is, I was watching a documentary, a congressional oversight committee hearing. Sat in the hearing with these United States senators, and they were grilling him about what's going on in Syria. And one of them asked him, quite frankly, I'm not a fan of his, but it was John McCain. He asked Chuck Hagel, what are we doing here? What'll happen if Assad fires at the Syrian rebels. Now we know, we talk about this all the time. It was documented in this documentary, and Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel confirmed it, that a contract was signed by the Syrian rebels that was put together by the United States to fight supposedly to fight ISIS or Assad. We don't know. They were there. They signed a contract claiming that they wouldn't fire at the Assad regime, but they would fire at ISIS. So John McCain asked him, so if the Assad regime fires at the Syrian rebels, what are they going to do? So that was the big, this is incredible. So what's going on here is, so the Syrian rebels, when Obama and the Hillary Clinton crime family was in power, were the Syrian rebels at the Assad regime? Who they're firing on? ISIS. So who are they protecting? The Assad regime. Who are they protecting? Iran. They're defending Iran. This is crazy stuff, right? Now we're looking at Iraq. Is Iraq an Iranian colony? We know after. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Why are we going there? Okay, why are we going there? Here. This is a Iran-ISIS connection article by the Weekly Standard. Lee Smith. They hate Trump. Okay, the Weekly Standard hates Trump. Lee Smith is a tremendous investigative reporter. Okay, claiming that December 2011, this is during the Obama administration, withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq left a vacuum that was filled by Iran, in particular by the Quds Force leader Soleimani. The U.S. departure left Iraq's Maliki free to wage a sectarian campaign against the Sunnis. So we've got a Sunni Shia thing going on, right? Including the tribes who had fought side by side with the American forces against Al-Qaeda in Iraq, ISIS. The Sunnis eventually lined up with the remnants of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, as well as the dead enders from the Saddam Hussein's military and intelligence services who constitute much of ISIS's leadership. The Islamic State is in many respects simply, whatever you want to say, fanatical part of Islam, whatever. I'm not even going to go there. I have my own opinions on that. But anyway, to further put this forward, I'm going now to this part of the article. After idly watching as hundreds of thousands of Sunnis were slaughtered by Assad, this is the Obama-Clinton crime family, the Obama-Clinton crime family finally moved to protect the Yazidis, the Christians targeted by ISIS in Iraq. The White House said there were no good guys in the Syrian conflict, but the U.S. airstrikes targeted ISIS and other Sunni terror organizations. So if they're targeting ISIS and other Sunni terror organizations, who are they defending? Right? Who are they defending? Even while we promised Iran that we would avoid hitting Assad and the Shiite terror groups like Hezbollah and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, he went so far as almost saying we're defending them. An administration spokesman and media surrogates explained that the White House wasn't going to set up a no-fly zone in Syria, thereby serve as Al-Qaeda's air force. Okay, so they're not doing that. However, when Soleimani, according to this article with Lee Smith, when Soleimani and Iraqi militia couldn't take Tikrit back from ISIS on their own, the administration had no problem tasking American pilots, in effect, to serve as the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps' air force. The administration is similarly flying drones over Lebanon, that feed intelligence to Hezbollah-controlled units of the Lebanese armed forces. So, who are we protecting here? I'm gonna come back with more tomorrow, okay? Because okay. So this is another article that we're gonna put under the cachet of the Iraq, Syria may be Iranian, there may be Iranian colonies, and we're defending Iran, maybe under the Obama-Clinton crime family. I'm just showing you what Donald Trump inherited, okay? So this is what Donald Trump inherited. So now, in this article, before I get to the Bin Laden stuff and the other stuff in Sudan, in this article here, the shadow commander, the Dexter Atkins article by the General Soleimani, the Iranian Quds Force leader with Hezbollah. They talk in here, because remember how we said in Syria, because there's always a money connection, right? In Syria, the Congressional Research Service claims that Iran gives Syria 3 to 15 billion annually, and that was confirmed in the Shadow Commander article as well. They claim 7 billion. Well, in Iraq, according to this article, the Shadow Commander, and specifically Kenneth Tillerman, the author of Dark Forces, The Truth About Benghazi. I heard him on a radio show with Frank Gaffney. I think it was the Center for Security Policy. Kenneth Tillerman was claiming when he was over in the Middle Eastern, North African region doing research for his book, Dark Forces, The Truth About Benghazi, intelligence gathering, and he found out that the Iranian Quds Force floats currency in the Iraqi banks and garners billions of dollars annually, and they garner so much money that they don't need any money from the Iranian budget. That's how much money the Quds Force garners from these, like for example, the Iraqi banks floating this currency, and they garner these enormous profits. And according to Kenneth Tillerman, the profits are in the billions. This is the Iranian Quds Force, Special Forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Crazy, right? That's another tie-in to this Iraq and Syria being this Iranian colony. I'm going to touch on more of that later as we move forward with the show. Now, not tonight though. I hit that, and quickly I got a little more left on this article. Well, how much time we got? Now, I don't want to. I'm not going to hit this article. This article was a great article, and I'm going to hit it. I'm going to finish it tomorrow. Andrew McCarthy, the Blind Sheiks prosecutor, Obama's Cash for Jihad program. I'm going to finish this article up tomorrow, because what we got out of this article, he said, this is Andrew McCarthy, the Blind Sheiks prosecutor, claiming that he garnered that the staggering figure that we gave to Iran was 33, at the least he claims 33.6 billion, which according to the calculations that Andrew McCarthy, the Blind Sheiks prosecutor from the National Review, garnered, he put together 8% of Iran's entire annual GDP. Crazy number, 8%. So I'm going to finish this article tomorrow, okay? Because I want to get into this other stuff. Now, so we're going to keep that up there. This is another piece that we're going to finish tomorrow. And now I got this other thing. Bin Laden uses Iraq to plot. This is an older article. I'm just trying to give a little background. In the light of Bin Laden's background, because we're going to get into now Sudan with Bin Laden. Bin Laden's background and his international context associations, there are strong indications that the world's most wanted terrorist has taken sanctuary in Iraq after fleeing Afghanistan via Iran, and given the enduring structure of his al-Qaeda network. So he was actually, there's been published reports that he was actually leading the one of the leaders of al-Qaeda, which is the militant branch in mainstream media and mainstream intelligence community. Al-Qaeda basically is the militant branch of Muslim Brotherhood. So basically, given the enduring structure of it, it is most likely that he was already planning simultaneous terror attacks on United States interests in many parts of the world. And so I'm just trying to find so they got him with Omar Mueller, the former, he's dead now, the former Afghan Taliban leader. They got him with Abdul Abu Islam. He's actually, they also have him with, well, he's with Here. Similarly, bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda had maintained close relations with Iraqi intelligence since the early 90s. In 94, Iraqi intelligence chief Farouk al-Hajazi visited the Sudanese capital of Khartoum, where bin Laden had established a headquarters for Al-Qaeda in 91 to run businesses to provide it with income and support. Farouk and bin Laden met. Also present, because this confirms what was in the article with Dr. Matthew Levitt. Also present was Dr. Hassan Turabali. He's the one, the head of Muslim Brotherhood Organization of Sudan. And he's the one that organized like the meeting of all the radical Islamists in Sudan in the 90s. So just to give you a little touch on that one. This is Asian Times. Bin Laden used Iraq to plot new attacks. Okay? That's to give you a little data on that one. And here's an interesting one, because they talk about Mustafa Hamid, right? Mustafa Hamid. Treasury, United States Treasury. This is to give you a little more oomph on what we're saying over here. United States Treasury targets Al-Qaeda operatives in Iran. Here's another article. This is the U.S. Treasury targets Al-Qaeda operatives in Iran. And we've been talking about this, the Sunni-Shia divide, the Iranian global terror network. Al-Qaeda is a Sunni militia. The U.S. Department of Treasury designated 4 Al-Qaeda associates under Executive Order 13224. It's a terrorism executive order which targets terrorists and those providing support to terrorists or acts of terrorism. It is important that Iran give a public accounting of how it is meeting its international obligations to constrain Al-Qaeda. Stuart Levy, at the time, Under Secretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. Global efforts to financially isolate Al-Qaeda have made it difficult for the core leadership to raise funds to sustain itself. Nevertheless, Al-Qaeda remains a very dangerous threat. And under this EO, this Executive Order 1322, any assets held by these individuals under U.S. jurisdiction are frozen, and U.S. persons are prohibited from engaging in any transactions with these designees. And this guy, Mustafa Hamid, is one of them that was designated, just to show you, the United States Treasury Department. We discussed him in the Sudan case, Dr. Matthew Levitt. Mustafa Hamid is a senior Al-Qaeda associate who served as primary interlocutor between Al-Qaeda and government of Iran. Wow. Before the fall of the Taliban, Hamid served as an instructor at a terrorist camp in Jalalabad that trained in the use of explosives. Hamid is the father-in-law of senior Al-Qaeda military commander Saif al-Adel. He formerly served as a correspondent for his television satellite station at the request of senior Al-Qaeda leadership. While living in Iran, this is the United States Treasury Department press release. While living in Iran, Hamid was harbored by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, in other words, protected, which served as Hamid's point of contact for communications between Al-Qaeda and Iran. In mid-90s, Mustafa Hamid reportedly negotiated a secret relationship between bin Laden and Iran, allowing many of Al-Qaeda members safe transit through Iran to Afghanistan. They border each other, Afghanistan and Iran. In the late 90s, Mustafa Hamid passed communication between bin Laden and the government of Iran when tensions were high between Iran and Afghanistan. Mustafa Hamid traveled multiple times from Kandahar to Tehran as an intermediary for the Taliban. Wow. So that's crazy stuff. So I'm going to read more of this. I got another Washington Weekly Standard article. U.S. Treasury links Iran to Al-Qaeda. Weekly Standard. So I'm going to read that tomorrow, all right? Because I want to get into this other stuff. But this is crazy stuff, right? Now, let's get into the bin Laden thing. So we got, why are we doing this? This is at the tip of the iceberg. Omar Bashir, Clark Boy. I believe Obama, the former president of the United States, knows Omar al-Bashir, the tyrannical dictator of Sudan, very well. Like, very well. He's a big operative in the Muslim Brotherhood, this Omar al-Bashir. Let's just say I believe that. We know his brother may know him pretty well as well. Malik may know him pretty well. And what is the clock boy taking a picture with Omar al-Bashir? So that's what we're looking at right now, but this is not deep. So we're looking at this case, the James Owens case and the Republic of Sudan. So now I'm going to go into the bin Laden part now. I'm going to start off where we started off. We said this is the bin Laden part. And by the way, I got rocked on my bracket very bad. Anyway. Okay. The Republic of Sudan support for bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. Right? So the Sudanese government supported support for bin Laden and Al-Qaeda was also important to the execution of two 1998 embassy bombings. We talked about this last night. The Sudanese intelligence services. Oh, this is what I wanted to write. We're going to start off with this. Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda received support and protection of the Sudanese intelligence military from foreign intelligence services and rival militants. Now, we know al-Bashir took over, I think in 89, he coup d'etat in 89, if I'm not mistaken. Sudan provided bin Laden and Al-Qaeda hundreds of Sudanese passports. Sudanese intelligence services allowed Al-Qaeda to travel over the Sudan-Kenya border. Who claims to be from Kenya? Without restriction, permitting the passage of weapons and money to supply the Nairobi terrorist cell, which was in Sudan. Finally, Sudan's support of Al-Qaeda was official Sudanese government policy. Wow. Safe harbor now. Okay. Osama bin Laden, a small group of supporters, founded Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan in 88. Al-Qaeda is Arabic for solid foundation. Bin Laden was the primary financier, the primary creative genius behind Al-Qaeda. And according to Ayman al-Zawahiri on Egyptian television, bin Laden is a member of the Saudi Arabia branch of Muslim Brotherhood. So basically a group that sought to create a worldwide network of individuals who would defend the Muslim community by waging a low-intensity war against any of its enemies, including the United States and other Western countries. When Al-Qaeda was formed, it was very small, centralized leadership composed of a Sharia council. Each member was head of a subcommittee. Now, in around 90, the war in Afghanistan neared its end. Al-Qaeda faced dangers arising from the eruption of a civil war, and had previously fought and defended. Well, that's interesting. That had previously, so also of civil war among the Afghan Mujahideen. Okay, the Afghan Mujahideen that had previously fought and defeated the Soviet Union. The multi-dimensional civil war involved several factions and extremely violent, with shifting front lines, which made it difficult for Al-Qaeda to maintain a secure base. The Pakistani government began to pressure the foreign jihadist fighters to leave Pakistan. And so Al-Qaeda needed to find a new base, and Sudan was eager to host. Now, in 1989, I will get into some history now. The 1989 Sudan government was overthrown by a military coup of General Omar al-Bashir and Hussein al-Turabi. He's the head of the National Islamic Front. He's the guy that we talked about earlier in this case with Dr. Matthew Levitt as an expert witness, claiming that this Hassan al-Turabi put together this major meeting in Sudan of all the radical Islamists, the global jihadists. So al-Turabi, as the head of the National Islamic Front and al-Bashir, as head of the military, who became the president, joined forces to rule Sudan. Under their leadership, the Sudanese government and al-Qaeda to convince them to relocate to Sudan. Al-Bashir even sent a letter of invitation. Oh, I gotta get that letter. The letter's here. It's in. I gotta get that letter. Al-Turabi and the National Islamic Front sought to implement Sharia law throughout Sudan, then in Muslim majority countries. The National Islamic Front felt, that's headed by Al-Turabi, the counterpart, the associate, the colleague of Omar al-Bashir, the head of Sudan, felt that the Muslim world was in danger primarily by the Western encroachment, which had to be resisted. This resulted in the Sudanese government's welcoming of a number of terrorist organizations into Sudan. We talked about that earlier. Al-Qaeda accepted Sudan's invitation late '91, and then the leadership of Sudan guaranteed Al-Qaeda a base, and Al-Qaeda agreed to support the war in South Sudan against the Christians and the animists, and to invest in the Sudanese economy. One of the members of Al-Qaeda who played an important role in the move was Jalal al-Fadl, who later worked directly with the Sudanese intelligence services under the approval of bin Laden. Al-Fadl was of Sudan, and he served as an intermediary. He served as an intermediary between Al-Qaeda and the Sudanese intelligence service. Al-Fadl later defected to the United States and became an official source for the FBI and the U.S. Justice Department. Wow. Al-Fadl provided in testimony for the United States government during the criminal trial of bin Laden. Wow, it's crazy. This is incredible. He recalled that when Al-Qaeda considered moving from Afghanistan to Sudan initially, raised among the Al-Qaeda leadership over whether Hassan al-Turabi's ruling National Islamic Front Party in Sudan would make a suitable, appropriate ally. According to Al-Fadl, the people they say we have to be careful with that, and we have to know more about Islamic Front. I remember Abu Abdallah. He decided to send people to Sudan at the time to discover, to see what's going on over there, and they brought good answer or clean answer. Al-Fadl indicated that bin Laden had dispatched several senior Al-Qaeda members on this mission. Abu al-Saudi, Abu al-Iraqi, Abu Hassan al-Sudani. Afterwards, we got lecture by Abu al-Iraqi. He asked about what in Sudan, what's this relationship. This is Al-Fadl. This is interesting. He said he went over there and he met with the Islamic National Front in Sudan, and he claimed that they're very happy to have a relationship with Al-Qaeda. And Al-Fadl personally interviewed and vetted those who sought to travel with Al-Qaeda to Sudan. Al-Fadl described his relationship in facilitating Al-Qaeda's subsequent move to Sudan in '90. He went with some members. They rented homes there, farms there in Khartoum, because they're going to bring the members in Sudan. So this is unbelievable. So he went with other members to rent guest houses. They established rent homes for the single person, for some homes with people who married, that got families. So see how they bring in the community. They bring them in. These radical Islamists bring them in, providing them with housing and feed them. So they bring them into their way, and that's how they front with the money. So if they get money in some way, American money makes it there, supposedly humanitarian aid. Oh yeah, humanitarian aid, basically that it doesn't go to the people, it goes to the terrorism. Wow. On the direct orders of bin Laden and other Al-Qaeda commanders, Al-Fadl purchased large farms in Sudan, Port Sudan. He personally witnessed senior Al-Qaeda commanders, Al-Mushri, Islam al-Mushri, Al-Adel, Abu Talha, supervising training courses in explosives being offered at the farm in Sudan. Terrorism expert Evan Coleman explained that the government of Sudan had encouraged al-Qaeda to move for several reasons. We're going to end on this. The government envisioned that Sudan would become the new haven for Islamic revolutionary thought and would serve as a base not just for al-Qaeda, but for Islamic revolutionaries of every stripe and size. Also, al-Qaeda's presence allowed Sudan to gain leverage against its antagonistic neighbor, Egypt. Interesting. Through the use of these groups that were opposed to the Egyptian government and to gain resources from its partnership with groups, especially bin Laden, who was rumored to be very wealthy. Sudan invited Pakistani Hamas movement, Palestinian Hamas movement, I'm sorry, you think that. Palestinian Islamic Jihad, I think that's where the Blind Sheik, that's how the Blind Sheik ended up in Sudan. Hezbollah from South Lebanon, which is Iranian-sponsored Shiite movement. Al-Qaeda, we talked about this earlier. Egyptian Islamic Jihad, Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, was all in Sudan. Dissident groups from Algeria, Morocco, other Islamic Jihad movements, literally every single jihadist-style government, regardless of what sect, were invited to take part in this meeting in Khartoum. I'm paraphrasing it. Further, the goal of organizing and launching a worldwide Islamic revolution. Sudan's open door policy for militant Islamic revolutionary groups and goal of fostering worldwide Islamic revolution resulted in an unprecedented meeting held in Khartoum known as the Popular Arab and Islamic Congress. The creation of the PAIC was the culmination of a quarter-century study, political activity, and international travel by Tarabi, and was described by Tarabi himself in his terms the most significant event since the collapse of the caliphate. Wow. So, revolutionary Sudan, Hussein al-Turabi, and the Islamic State, 2003. This is 17. They're talking about the Islamic State today. They talked about the Islamic State in the Holy Land Foundation trial in the Philadelphia conference. The Palestinian Authority Hamas group was talking about becoming an Islamic State in the 90s. So the list of participants in this first assembly was held in Khartoum in April '91. Reads like a who's who of modern terrorism. The Philippines, Abu Sahab, Algeria's FIS, the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Hamas voted a resolution pledging to work together to challenge and defy the tyrannical West. Wow, so we're going to continue with this. It's getting late. This is crazy. So this is the Frankie, I'm so engrossed in this. This is like, we're on page 9 now. We're almost done with this this case. It's really an amazing thing what we're going over. We're going to tie it all in tomorrow. I'm going to tie it in further. Okay, so this was the Sudan case. Let me get the cover. Here, this is the James Owens versus the Republic of Sudan. I found this on the investigative project.org/cases. So we're looking at this thing. We're looking, and we're going to tie this whole thing together. So what we've come out of so far with this whole thing, we've come out with the fact that right now on the Obama-Clinton crime family, is Syria an Iranian colony? That's a question we have to answer. We're trying to answer. And is Iraq an Iranian colony? And if that's the case, what has America been doing there under the Obama-Clinton crime family? Because there's strong evidence that we are defending Syria, we're defending Iraq, we're defending Maliki, we're defending Iran, Hezbollah. the Iranian Global Terror Network. Maybe. Okay, outside looking in. And I always put out the Russo disclaimer. I had it on the beginning of the show. The Russo disclaimer. Court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-researched, well-sourced open source articles. We search to quasi-modeling statistical significance, quote unquote, not in its strictest sense, obviously. There is subjectivity there. Look above my head. I'm for Trump. I keep it real. I keep it straight. Okay? So we finished for tonight. We're going to move forward tomorrow with the grace of God. I'm going to try to get on earlier. I will. This is the Frankie Russo show. We're going to continue with Osama bin Laden in Sudan. Any other questions that we posed today? This is the Frankie Russo show. I'll see you tonight around 8 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll see you in the future.